Well, welcome and thank you for joining us today. I'm Marion Drake. I'm the Executive Director of Development here at Walsh Jesuit High School.
And I'm Debbie Miller. I'm the Vice President of Advancement. And we are also pleased to have two of our alumni who are going to help us in this conversation. Dan Schreg from the class of 98 and Brent Thompson from the class of 96.
Well, welcome. Thank you for being here today. So you might be asking, what is the SGO? And Debbie will review that a little bit.
Yeah. So a scholarship granting organization is something that is a little bit newer, started in the state of Ohio, where anybody who pays state income tax has the ability to redirect part of their tax liability to scholarship or tuition assistance. And it's one of those things that when I first did my first SGO gift, I thought, wow, this is almost too good to be true. I'm making a gift, I'm able to help students, and in return, I can receive a dollar for dollar tax credit. So if you're an individual filer, you can receive up to $750. If you're filing jointly as a married couple, it's $1,500 and as a tax credit. And the wonderful thing about all of these gifts is they go directly to student tuition support. That's what it has to be used for. And it's just a great way to support our students. So Marion's going to talk a little bit about impact and how it's made a difference for Walsh students.
Absolutely. So as we talk about how the SGO works, we're just going to take a moment to pause and share what the program actually makes possible here at Walsh Jesuit. Because behind every tax credit and every donation is actually a student whose life is changed by your generosity. For this school year, 25-26 school year, 121 students are receiving SGO awards. That's 121 young people who were able to continue their Walsh Jesuit education because someone chose to redirect their tax dollars to support a student in need. In total, we were able to provide over $360,000 in tuition assistance, which is an extraordinary amount of support, and every single dollar had a direct impact on a Walsh Jesuit family. When you think about what a Walsh Jesuit education provides, academic rigor, faith formation, leadership development, and a deep commitment to service, this assistance goes far beyond financial help. It opens doors and restores stability for these families. So the average award this year was nearly $3,000, which means many students received a pretty impactful gift, and that support has been critical in their lives. For some families, that award is what allowed them to continue their Walsh Jesuit education. And the heart behind that impact comes from 246 donors, 246 individuals and families who said yes to helping a student, not through a traditional gift, but simply by reallocating their state tax dollars. So that's the beauty of the SGO, is ordinary people can create extraordinary outcomes without increasing their personal giving cost. When you participate in the SGO, you're not just giving, you're ensuring that Walsh Jesuit remains accessible, competitive, it strengthens our entire community. And you're investing in students who will go on to live out the Walsh Jesuit mission throughout the world. And you are strengthening a community that's built on faith, service, and opportunity. So this is the impact you make possible. And with your partnership, we can reach even more students in the year ahead.
Support Walsh Jesuit students at no cost to you. Step 1. Check your Ohio tax liability from last year. Look for line 8C on your state tax form. Step 2. Donate up to $750 individually or $1,500 jointly to the Warrior Tax Credit Fund. Step 3. Claim your 100% tax credit using the receipt we send you. Get started today.
Hey, Marion, thanks for that. And as Marion mentioned, I guess an introduction, I'm Brent Thompson. I'm a vice president in our tax services group here at Meaden & Moore. We're a public accounting firm, and Dan and I have worked together on the the finance committee at Walsh, and Dan is chairing that committee currently. And the purpose of this, Marion and Deborah asked us to kind of talk about the SGO and the tax credit, because it's one of these beautiful things that it's literally no cost to the donor, because they're getting a dollar for dollar tax credit on their Ohio taxes. So provided that you have actual Ohio tax, you're getting all of your donation up to $750 if you're single, or $1,500 if you're married filing joint. You're getting that entire $1,500 contribution back to you when you file your Ohio income tax return through the SGO tax credit that Ohio provides. So this slide is basically just, hey, how do I take advantage of this credit? I want to support the school. I love the cause that it's going to need-based financial assistance for Walsh students. And how can I get my $1,500, and how do I take the tax credit? So, the first step is to identify and confirm that you actually have $750 or $1,500 of Ohio tax. And this slide shows, on line 8C of your Ohio income tax return, it will tell you what your Ohio tax is. And I'm just going to share my screen briefly here. And I've highlighted here, this is the Ohio income tax form. This is the first page of the Ohio income tax form. This is the second. And this line 8C is where you would find what your Ohio income tax is. So again, if you're going to make a $1,500 contribution, so long as this line 8C is at least $1,500, you're going to be able to monetize and get that $1,500 contribution back in the form of the tax credit. That tax credit itself ultimately ends up going down here on line 9, Ohio non-refundable credits. So, the first step is to confirm that you do have Ohio tax liability. And I guess just for reference, depending on what your total income is, what your Ohio taxable income is, you get to $1,500 of Ohio tax relatively quickly. It's about $50,000 to $60,000 of income is all that is needed in order for you to have around $1,500 of Ohio tax. So once you make the contribution, ultimately you end up reporting the credit amount over here. This is the Ohio schedule of credits. There's a specific line number on the Ohio return, line 15 here, that if you made the $1,500 contribution, the school is going to provide you with the documentation that you need to upload or send with the return, and you report that $1,500 credit rate here, and it's a direct reduction in your taxes. So going back to the slide, so we've kind of completed step 1. Step 2 would be submit your donation online or by check. And I think that we're probably advocating making that contribution online. And I'm going to share my screen just once again to show how easy it is. So there's a website that's provided in the slide deck, but if you just go out to Walsh's website, you're going to quickly find the link to donate either the $750 or the $1,500 contribution to the SGO. And once you make that payment amount, you're going to receive an email back from Walsh that contains the language that no goods or services were provided in exchange for the contribution. It's going to give the contribution amount, and it's going to provide for the EIN number. And that one letter is what you need to submit with the filing of your Ohio income tax return to actually claim the credit. Step 3, I think we've already covered. So, couple of other, I guess, points I wanted to make and actually claiming the credit and making the payment itself. You do have, like, if you're not certain whether you'll have $1,500 of actual Ohio tax liability, you do not need to make the credit by 12/31/25 to take the 2025 tax credit. You actually have up until the point you file your tax return, or no later than April 15th of 2026. So, if you take your taxes in and you say to your preparer, hey, I just want to confirm I've got $1,500 of Ohio tax liability before I decide whether or not to make a contribution to the SGO for the 25 tax year, you actually have until April 15th of 26 to make that contribution and have it be a tax credit on the 25 return.
Thank you, Brent.
Thanks.
That's really helpful. Very helpful. So Dan, as an introduction, you can introduce yourself.
Hi there, Dan Schrag, class of 98. I'm an accounting professor at Baldwin Wallace, and as Brent said, I've been helping out with the finance committee at Walsh for the last couple of years. So thanks for having me, and happy to share real life examples. So, and I think we've gone through some of these, but we'll just step through them. So scenario 1, if you're a single filer and you give $750, you can receive a $750 tax credit. Again, you need to have that liability in order to get that credit, but I think that's clear now. A married couple can give $1,500 and receive a $1,500 tax credit. And a donor can give more than their tax liability. So let's say you only have a tax liability that's less. You could still give to the SGO. But you can only receive the credit up to the amount of your tax liability. The rest of the gift would still be can still be tax deductible overall, but just not part of this SGO credit with the state of Ohio. And then if you are in a situation where you have maybe a child at Walsh and a child at another grade school or another high school, you can split your gifts among other SGOs. So you can decide, who gets what, but up to those same thresholds. I can also say real life example is that I did this for the first time last year, and it was easy to make the payment and easy to get the credit. And I'm not a tax expert specifically. I'm more of an auditor, and so I do my own taxes, and it's a little bit daunting. But the process of actually going online and using the Ohio tax website and finding the credit and getting it all done was very simple.
Wonderful. So we wanted to go ahead and go over maybe a few questions that you might have, but then also open it up to some Q&A, and we're here to support those. So who can give? I think we kind of covered that, but as long as you have Ohio State tax liability, you are able to give, whether it's $100 or up to $1,500. You're able to redirect those tax dollars to Walsh Jesuit High School.
In terms of how the tax credit is claimed, I think Brent went through that very well. And just a reminder, and Brent can correct me if I'm wrong. So you need to look at line 8C to see if you have the tax liability. On the schedule of credits, line 15 is where you would have the credit. And I think a really important thing, this is a separate, nonprofit organization. The information you receive back from Walsh that has the EIN number must be submitted with your tax return in order to get the credit. So I could speak from experience. I didn't do that the first time, and I got a letter from the state asking for proof. So just submit it right up front with your tax return, and it makes the process go so much smoother.
Absolutely. And you might ask, can I support the SGO and the Warrior Fund? They're two separate EINs. They're two kind of separate organizations, but we do hope that if you continue to support the Warrior Fund in addition to the SGO, the SGO is a way to give without it costing anything. It's a tax credits. You actually get those funds back. But we hope that those of you who support our Warrior Fund will continue to do so. That supports all the operations of the school. It's unrestricted funding that helps everything from the athletics to the academics to the arts. Every program is touched by the Warrior Fund, and the SGO is restricted to help with tuition assistance, which is also much needed.
Can I make a monthly contribution? And the answer is yes. We like to make this as simple for you as possible. So sometimes it might be difficult to do the full $750 or $1,500 in one payment, but you can definitely do it through a monthly contribution online. And we shared the website with you, and you'll have a link to it again as we go through this presentation.
So the last question that we have listed here before we open it up is, can I direct my donation to a specific student? And the answer to that is actually no. That would be considered a tuition payment. So according to IRS guidelines, you aren't able to choose a particular student, but it will help a student who has tuition assistance needs. So that's any questions out from our group here that you might have? You can either type it in the chat or feel free to unmute and ask the question. Daniel, I think you might be, were you asking a question? Nope. Okay. So moving on to our ways to give. So we talked a little bit before, very simple. You can go straight to our website at walshjesuit.org/giving/WJHS-SGO. There's also, if you go to our giving page, you can give directly there. And then the other way you can give is just simply by writing a check to Walsh Jesuit High School SGO. And we will make sure that you get back that proper documentation to submit for your taxes. So I think we want to we're appreciative for everybody who joined us today. Thank you especially to Brent and Dan for helping us with this conversation. It's not too good to be true that you can get a tax credit when you make a gift to Walsh Jesuit High School, and those funds will come right back to you. But thank you for joining us. There's the QR code if you'd like to scan that and go directly to the site. We are available with any other questions that you might have. Feel free to reach out to Walsh Jesuit High School. We're here for you.
Marion and Deborah, thanks. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.